Hello and welcome to week 9. So we are officially in the second half of the semester, so congratulations on doing such a great job in the first half. And I know that you're going to continue to do just as well in the second half, as well as it's going to completely fly by. So I hope that at this point of the course you really feel like you have already gained a tremendous amount of knowledge, and I really appreciated the emails that I got from you last week letting me know what had the most impact on you up to this point in the course. So it's really gratifying to see how seriously you're taking the course, as well as really internalizing the information so that you are able to use it in your professional life, whether it's now or in the future. And for many of you, you also mentioned how it was impacting your personal life as well in a positive way. So thank you very much for taking the time to send those emails. So this week we are going to finish up kind of the environment section of the textbook, and so we're going to be looking at scheduling, the importance of creating a developmentally appropriate schedule, and guiding children's behavior, which it may seem like these two things do not work together, but they absolutely do, because having a developmentally appropriate schedule is going to have an impact on how children behave. Just like if a teacher was trying to give a test right before it's lunchtime, they've created a problem because children aren't going to be able to pay attention. Now, obviously, we don't give tests in early childhood. That was more of something to recall from when you were in middle school or high school. But it's just to show the importance of being intentional about how we schedule our day. And so I'm going to be introducing that assignment to you as well. So when you look in our module for this week, you're going to notice there's a couple of different things. This is a really quick little YouTube video that I found that I thought was such a fun way to show how a teacher greets their students and starts their day every morning. And again, when we are guiding their behavior and we have this type of schedule, the fact that we're trying to create a warm, welcoming environment is really important. So I thought this was just something cute to share with you. A couple of other things, a couple of other resources that are in here. This is a great article that I found that talks about some positive guidance strategies that you can use, because one of the main things that I want you to take from chapter 6 is the fact, or chapter 7, is that we really are working at not trying to conform children, we're trying to teach them how they're supposed to behave. And I think that we all agree that children do not come into the world normally thinking about other people and how their actions actually affect somebody else. And so we're teaching them, and that's why it's so important to remember that we're guiding them. That's why we don't call it behavior management or classroom management anymore. It's because we understand the fact that we are, especially when we're teaching younger children, we're trying to teach them and guide them in how they're supposed to behave. So these are some excellent strategies. And this is actually a set of little training videos that are really interesting and applicable, not just on the guiding children's behavior and creating a schedule, but also going back and talking about the classroom environment. And so again, these are just extra resources for you. You are not required to read them or view them. It's just when I find some great things, I want to share them with you. So when you look at our weekly page, you're going to see, again, we're looking at guiding children's behavior and creating a schedule. So the guiding children's behavior is in chapter 7, but when it comes to the schedule, that is actually found back in chapter 9, where it was talking about the temporal environment, and so it's pages 296 through 305 in that chapter. So your assignments for this week, there is a discussion board required for you to complete, but you will notice that I said you only have to post. You do not need to respond to anyone else since you are working on several assignments. Begin working on the schedule assignment, which I'm going to give you a quick overview of, and then just make sure that you submit your activity center project by the end of the week. So when you click on the schedule assignment, you're going to notice that there's all kinds of things in here for you, but really the nuts and bolts of it is that you're going to be creating a schedule for a preschool classroom that starts at 6:30 in the morning and ends at 6 o'clock at night. And so throughout the day, you're going to have to make sure that children are having enough time to play in the centers, to have free access to the centers. There needs to be a nap time. There need to be times that you're going outside. You're going to have a circle time. But again, this is about understanding how am I going to plan my day. So there's a couple of things in here for you. I would definitely recommend taking a look at this PowerPoint as it's just going to give you some background information about creating a developmentally appropriate schedule. You will also see that there is a sample that has been started. It's not completely done, but it's just so you can see how to fill out the chart. This is actually the blank form, so you can kind of write in it, type in it, however you want to kind of do your rough draft. I do have a template for you, and the only reason that I urge you to work from the template when you're ready to submit is because it has the challenge questions on it that the schedule form does not have. They're in the instructions. And then I did a narrated instruction on how to do this. But if we just very quickly look at the instructions, you'll see how I've set it up for you. And again, you're going to be creating a table, and I'll show you the form so you can see how it goes. Again, this is that schedule PowerPoint. And so here's where we get into the instructions. So you need to start at 6:30 in the morning with a staggered arrival, and you will end at 6 o'clock in the evening. Again, this is going to be for a preschool classroom, but a few things to keep in mind. One of the main words or phrases that you probably saw when you were doing your research on your activity center project was substantial portion of the day. And so that means 1/3 of your operating hours. So the great thing is that there's already been a calculator done for you, so you don't have to do the math. But hopefully you are watching this video, and so you are going to get the advantage. I'm going to give you some of the answers that you're going to put into your schedule. So 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. is 11.5 hours, and so that's going to be important to keep in mind when we start looking at that substantial portion of the day. So when you go and you start looking at the instructions, you're going to see how you're going to review the schedule form. And so here is the schedule sample, just so you can see how it's set up. So basically, what you're going to have going down the left-hand column is going to be the time that children are doing something. So you'll see on this particular sample, the student said that from 6:30 to 8:30, that was kind of their staggered arrival. And so during this time, which is column 2, you're just going to be listing what are children doing during that time. Then you'll notice across the top, these are all of the centers. The only one that probably doesn't look familiar to you is this final one, which is gross motor, and that's actually for going outside. So the only time that you're going to have gross motor is going to be when you go outside. And there should be a 30-minute time in the morning and a 30-minute time in the afternoon for children that are going to go outside. And so basically what you do is at any point during your different activities that children have free access to the center, then you're going to put the amount of time in there. So if you look here, you'll see 6:30 to 8:30, which is 2 hours. This student has said children will have breakfast, but cozy, fine motor, and books are going to be available to children during that time. So since that's a 2-hour block, we put 2 hours for fine motor, 2 hours for cozy, and 2 hours for books. You'll see that they then have from 8:30 to 8:45, they have a circle time, and centers should not be freely accessible to children during circle time, so you don't put anything in there. And then they said from 8:45 to 10 that all centers are available, which that's an hour and 15 minutes. And so an hour and 15 minutes goes into every single one of those columns. And then you're just going to continue to add rows as you go. So, so when you looked at the instructions and it said to review the schedule form, again, you will see I just gave you a quick tutorial and how the form is set up. You are going to have to add rows, and I will show you that in Microsoft Word that's really easy to do. If I go back to the schedule sample, make sure you click on Enable Editing. And so if you kind of hover around the end of a row, you'll see a little plus sign pop up, and you can just click that as many times as you want to add in as many rows as you want. You are going to have to add rows because the schedule template does not have enough space for you to start at 6:30 in the morning and end at 6 o'clock in the evening. So add as many rows as you want. It does not matter. Just make sure that you're documenting everything. One hint that I will give you is you will probably, which this student did not do, but you will probably want to add in transitions, because I think we all know that if children are going from circle time to the centers, that's not going to happen in the exact same time. So you may say that 8:45 to 8:50 is children going to the centers. You're probably going to have a transition anytime you finish your centers because you have to have time to clean up. You're going to have a transition anytime that they're going to eat because they need to wash their hands. You need a transition after they eat because they need to wash their hands. So that's why it's important that you add in those rows. So if we go back to our instructions, again, I've already told you fill in your block times. Only put time in the centers if children have free access to them. But during circle time, during nap time, during lunch, during snacks, centers are not available to children. So you don't need to put anything in there. And then you get down to that substantial portion of the day. And so, as I said, if you're watching the video, you get the advantage because 11.5 hours is going to be 3 hours and 50 minutes. So if you look at our sample, you'll see down here where it says substantial portion of the day access amounts. All of these are going to be 3 hours and 50 minutes. The green is where you're going to add up how much time you have given children access to the centers. 3 hours and 50 minutes should be your minimum. It's going to be fine if you go over, but you certainly don't want to go under. And then you also have a minimal access, which that would be the bare minimum. And so anything over 8 hours is 60 minutes. So if we go back to our sample, you'll see these blue, all of those are going to say 60 minutes. It's 1 hour. So as you go down, you'll see that there's going to be some challenge questions for you. There's only 3, but you are going to need to use the resources that are in our module this week to be able to answer those. So I've given you some hints that are going to help you, and then here are your 3 challenge questions. But as I said, I put everything into the assignment for you so that you could have access to all of them. Again, narrated instruction. And then here's the template that you can work from. So really, it's not meant to be a difficult assignment, but it is going to take you a little bit of time just to make sure that you're giving children access to the centers for the appropriate amount of time. So use all of these resources to help you. Again, this isn't due for a few weeks, so once you start working on it, if you find that you're stuck, please make sure you've reviewed all of these before you send me an email asking for clarification, simply because I did try and take a lot of time to give you all of the information in a variety of ways. So I think that takes care of week 9. Have fun finishing up your activity center and getting started on your schedule assignment. And I will see you in week 10.